Okay, guys. Hey, we are live. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. We have a bit of a special Sunday show for you today because the U.S. seems to be at war with Iran, and we are thankful that Kevin Barron joined us here today to talk us through it. Kevin's an international journalist, an analyst. Kevin, you covered all of this defense stuff at the Pentagon. You worked to what you were the VP of the Pentagon Press Corps, right?
The Pentagon Press Association, yeah, we started
Yes.
that. I was at the press corps of the Pentagon for about 15 years, 10 of which I ran in Defense One. I was the executive editor there. So, yeah, this is all too
Thank you
familiar.
for joining us to chat this through, Senator.
So you've been here before. This is not uncharted territory.
Yeah. Well, war with Iran was
Yeah,
always on the
yeah.
horizon. Here we are.
The war in the Middle
Okay,
East, not so much.
so
So
we'll get you kind of up to speed just on, what has happened this morning. Of course, we have the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali excuse me, I'm tired. I'm on the Pacific Coast. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he was killed in a major attack yesterday. It was launched by the US and Israel. This morning, we are learning that 3 US troops have been killed, several others injured. And Iran is saying that more than 100 kids were killed at a school that was struck yesterday. So let's just get into it. We can just kind of unpack this as we go in an organic way. Senator, what are your initial thoughts here?
well, I would love to hear what Kevin has to say about this. So I mean, we heard that the nuclear capabilities of Iran had been obliterated. Um, there were we were in negotiations with Iran to make sure that they couldn't reestablish a nuclear weapon. Um, and then we end up uh, having the State of the Union on Tuesday night. No mention of this. We've seen the forces pushed around Iran, the different carrier groups, and for the last 36 hours, we've been at war in Iran. So the question I've got for you, Kevin, does this parallel any of the other Middle Eastern conflicts at all? It doesn't seem like this was set up at all. We weren't talking about weapons of mass destruction like we did with Iraq. Just kind of went in the middle of negotiations that we were being told were going pretty well, except for the president never said that, but the people doing the negotiations did. What's your cut on all this stuff? And is it really about the nuclear capabilities of Iran, or is it more about oil? Is it more about the Epstein files or the economy here? How do you view stuff from your perspective? We tend to get a little jaded, if you know what I mean.
Yes, we do. Well, as a Pentagon reporter, you're required to be jaded. Um, Thanks for having me on, both of you. There's a lot there. I'm less of a conspiracy theorist and more of an incompetency believer, meaning, when for things like, wag the dog theories, anytime people think there's a deep conspiracy to divert the attention of the country away from something else, I never give credit to anybody that works in any administration that they're that clever or that they're that capable to get an entire government to go along with such a scheme. It may happen anyway, but, no, I think, yeah, I've assumed this strike was coming because of all the prep work that we saw, right? You don't move that kind of firepower without purpose. It's just you don't need that, tripling of level of firepower to, push negotiations. I think that just it seemed believe what you see, just like with Venezuela. It was all built up for a reason. The strikes were coming. Um, I, who knows what the real motivation for a lot of this is? I think all goes back to several years worth of storylines with Iran, where yes, it was either the nuclear program or Iran's ability to launch missile strikes around the region and fund and direct terrorism strikes through their proxies around the region. And that's always been the fault line between Republicans and Democrats, right? The Republicans who thought the original Iran deal was a bad deal because they thought it let Iran off the hook for part two. Whereas the Dems thought, "Hey, it's a good deal. Take the deal. We're out of negotiations." A lot of Republicans thought, "You guys are getting played," and yada yada yada. Here we are now. So um, I think this, you know, zoom back a lot. I often go back to the line of where I think this president and the whole MAGA movement is based on the idea that there are no rules anymore. There are no rules of the game. Like the Constitution doesn't matter, laws don't matter, international norms and treaties and the gentlemanly way of diplomacy doesn't matter. So yes, I've seen a lot of writing of people saying this is a lot different than back in the Colin Powell day. We don't have 8 months of legal justifications and appeals at the UN and at the international bodies and to Congress and laying it out to the public. Why would you expect that from this president and this administration? Of course not, because they think we don't need it. They think they have the power. They have the executive power to do it. Um, and so I think a lot of the criticism of what's going on it really is coming through partisan lenses. I think it's a lot of things like, well, if your guy was making these calls, you wouldn't be so upset about it. Some of it, I think, is universal. Like, yes, it would have been nice if the president had gone to Congress and got some sort of blessing. I think personally, a lot of that is just performative nonsense. I don't think Congress has blessed anything since Vietnam. I think even the AUMFs for the the two AMFs for Iraq and all the Afghanistan terror wars were just cover. I think it was just a cover page on facts, right? I don't think Congress, no offense to you, Congress, as Congress in general, really had any power to control or to give anything, especially in the last year. The Republican Congress now has done absolutely zero to really at least on the high level, to stop Donald Trump from these international incursions. So I think they took the chance that they saw. I think David Sanger had a good piece yesterday in the New York Times with the line in it, the saying basically to the effect that they saw the window of opportunity and they took it. So
And excuse me, Maurice, but I got to follow up a little bit. This is interesting because earlier this week, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kevin.
yeah,
Earlier this week, I think the General Kane said, "This is a bad idea because we don't have the munitions and we don't have the allies." I don't know if you read that or not.
yeah.
This is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So it didn't sound to me by reading that, you don't have to really read between the lines, that he thought this might not be a good idea. What's your view? Do you think this was merited? And by the way, we're not here to hang anybody out. Just let us know if you think this was a good thing, and you think the administration was right in doing this, moving forward or not. I'll tell you what my concern is before you get into it. My concern is that it feels good right now, just like it did in all the other conflicts. Felt good up front, and they picked off the Ayatollah. God dang, there's nothing. I mean, that makes the world a better place. But I think the potential for this to be a long, drawn out, with not really the kind of end results that the president says
Mhm.
is much higher than the Iranian people being able to take back their country and form a government that isn't the same government they had before. What's your view?
I think all of that's true and valid, and I think I don't know how anybody knows. I don't God bless CIA analysts who are supposed to know more on this, but I have a lot of Iranian dissident friends that I speak to, and they'll say flat out, this is the problem. Like there is no organized opposition, and even like Reza, who's out there, the son of the Shah, he will say he doesn't want to be anointed the next leader of Iran and come take it over. They want some sort of democratic process. And that's one of these criticisms of what happened in the last couple of days is Trump's going on air and the MAGA or the Trump administration officials going on air saying we've done the job for you. Now it's up to you to go uprise and take over the country, as if it's that easy, as if they haven't been trying for 47 years, as if we've seen what happened in the last few weeks when thousands of people take the street and thousands of people get mowed down. Right, so easy for you to say. They don't have. There's no organized, army. There's no organized. I don't know what to expect unless there is, and I don't, and we don't know it. There's some faction, some band of ICRG, like some version of the Ba'athist, right there, who are armed and organized and ready to go storm the palace. Who nobody knows. I do agree. I mean, I believe JD Vance when he says we don't want a long drawn on Iraq. The kit that we've sent to the region is air power and aircraft carriers. It's not infantry battalions and divisions and tanks, right? We're not. I don't see the 10th Mountain, mobilizing for an occupation. There's nothing indicating that. So we really have just decided to poke the nest and hope for the best. So yeah, but go back to what I said earlier about being no rules. There's been, I think it's an open secret in Washington that there's, in the foreign policy national security bubble, there were plenty of people who really wanted someone to drop a bomb on Bashir Assad's head long ago at the beginning of that conflict and saving 250,000 people from dying instead of playing by what people thought were the old rules of the 20th century, Westphalian nation state system where, well, if one country takes out their leader, it's justification for them to take out their leader. It gives China permission, it gives Russia permission. A lot of people thought that's all performative, paper pushing, academic. It's not real life. The real life is we have, unbelievable firepower to press a button and take out a dictator and start something. And Trump is doing it. These guys are doing it, and there's nothing. It's done. I think for the first time, I think this is very unique. And people thought, what would have happened if somebody did drop a bomb on Assad's head? What would Syria look like? You could have maybe called Russia's bluff. I don't know, but there's a lot of differences. Of course, Russia had aircraft there. They were defending Syria. They kind of seem to be sitting this one out big time, and for a lot of reasons. They're occupied and expended in Ukraine. So, the world changed, and again, that line of I think Trump saw the opportunity and took it, and we'll see what happens. It's messy, it's awful, it's not humanitarian, it's not legal, it's not peace, but the Ayatollah's gone, and, there are a lot of really, happy, cheering Iranians who are also very nervous, so.
I think that's the whole point in any of these. I mean, this is complex stuff, and you can hold multiple truths at the same time. You can say that the supreme leader was not a good or humanitarian leader, and you can also say that there are many concerns about how this went down and how this was done, and how we
Yes,
have more
absolutely.
than 100 school children dead in Iran. I mean, that's not something the Iranian people want. And I read so many things this morning, but one of the questions I read was, well, how would you feel if you didn't like a specific United States president and other countries came in and took him out, but justified it by killing a bunch of our kids?
Of course.
That's not what we want either. So I think that, there's so many questions here, like what comes next? Could a hardline forces come in and take over? What does the retaliation look like? What is this really about? I mean, we saw the president. I'm going to put this up here. Let's see. Yesterday on True Social, he said that Iran tried to interfere in the 2020 and 2024 elections to stop Trump. I mean,
So
why
yeah,
even
so did
insert that
so
in
did
this
Russia.
conversation?
So did Russia, but
Yeah.
yes, Iran did. That's all true. Yeah, he makes it's about, that's his own justification or for his own base or supporters, but yeah, I mean, and also, yes, it's worth saying why now? Nobody can understand why this had to happen now. There's no imminent threat. There is no imminent, I've seen nothing, 0 reporting, and the White House isn't even trying to say it. They're not trying to say very weakly every now and then they'll throw in some line. It's not like, "Oh, they could have had a bomb in 10 days." Like, "No, we're not there. We know what happened." Yes, they weren't obliterated. I don't care about that line of I think it's a waste of breath to go there. It doesn't matter. Yes, they were hurt. Their program was set back. I saw, Joe Cirincione from the old Plowshares president on, making the airwaves. He's the nation's, I think, best nuclear expert. He lays out, here's what they did have, here's what was possible. It was all still potentially there. But Trump, yes, still could have found a way to make this. I don't know how you make war safer, but he could have said,
Mm,
this is going to happen. We are going to strike. We are going to. One of the things I saw that was interesting in the last 24 hours was a report that the negotiators offered Iran all the nuclear fuel they could want. Like, we will give you all the nuclear fuel for energy we want, and Iran said no to that, and that was the indication of like you're not serious then about the nuclear weapons side. The missile side matters too. I was encouraged a little bit that in the initial statements, the administration was saying we are targeting Iran's missile capabilities like never before. But we see now we're 2 days into it, and they're still launching missiles all over the Middle East. So we didn't get them all. And
right.
I see people are reporting, unverified to me that B-2s are even flying, overhead. We're gonna use everything we can to something like this. Um, so it could have been 6 months from now. It could have been we could have done more ops to take out some of those offensive things. I don't know. Part of it too is the trying to predict the response. It's one thing to think, well, if you strike Iran, we always will say every American base is going to be in trouble. Israel's gonna be in trouble. I don't think anybody had on the front of their list of possible options was that Iran was gonna hit the Burj. Like, they're sending drones into, or that an explosive drone is gonna land at the Marine base in Bahrain like it did yesterday. That thing, I don't know if that thing flew all the way from Iran. It looked like a small one. That probably came from somewhere local or offshore, but they're still hitting. They're hitting civilians all over the Middle East. That's another unknown factor of this, like, the response. This isn't ISIS. This is
Right.
Iran immediately retaliated and has done what nobody else could do was unite the entire Gulf, with Saudi. Like, they're all united against Iran now and Israel. It's just good luck
Yeah.
protecting.
So, you're right. Russia is preoccupied with a little gig going on in Ukraine, where they've lost a bunch of troops and a lot of assets. But China's involvement in that war is somewhat less, a lot less.
Mhm.
I have read where China gets about 20 to 25% of their energy from Iran. Um, this war has a possibility of escalating big time if China gets into it. What's your view on that? Do you think that's a possibility? You think they're going to lay out?
I don't know. I mean, anything's a possibility. Off the top of my head, I would look at China's behavior in the other conflicts. They have not been supportive of Ukraine. They don't want to upset, like I said, the apple carts that they're relying on for their own energy and their own economic power. You know, I believe the China experts who make the historical kind of take the historical perspectives that they don't think China wants to take over the world and wants to, expand into the West. They want to do what they've done for thousands of years, be the strongest in their region, compete, in every aspect of way of life and economy and everything else. And so, I'm a little less alarmist with China. Good. It's a great question. I think, the normal stuff. I would expect China to, be not supportive at the UN and make sorts of statements, but I don't know. I don't. What do you think that they could do? I mean, what do you think could be?
Well, I mean, I look at it. If this was 20% or 25% of anybody's energy that is put at risk, um, that's pretty significant, to be quite frank with you. And I don't know what China's going to do either. By the way, that's why I asked you. But the truth is,
Well, yeah.
I mean, I think economically and militarily, they want to be the big dog. They want to replace us. I think they want the reserve
Yeah.
currency to be the one. I mean, I think right down the line, they want to be able to be the world's big dog economically and militarily too. We're seeing it through their military expansion. We're seeing what they're doing.
Well, I question the military part. I do. I mean, like, because I don't see a global look. It's not even close to what the United States has. We have like 700 installations around the world, and 11 combatant commands, 9 geographic. Like, China has nothing like that, not even close. They're very limited regionally with some overseas interests. I've always thought the stories about China wanting to buy the port near Dubai would very quickly get overblown as if China's trying to launch a base next to ours. Like, no, that's not what they're doing. They're actually much more insidious and much more careful, and they're trying to have influence in a whole different way. So I'm less worried about the military option with China. I understand fully the 25% of energy. Now on the horizon, Trump's supposed to go meet Xi in April, and I've seen, I just saw yesterday too a report that they're going to reject arms sales to Taiwan that were due because of that meeting, and because they know we've got to save our money for what we're doing now. So I wait till April when Trump was with Xi face to face, and she goes, "Hey man, you just cut off 25% of our oil. You owe us something, right? So who knows what'll come of that?" Um,
That's a fair point. The only thing I was saying, we can agree or disagree on this, but China's done some pretty amazing things with their Belt and Road Initiative in
Mhm.
Africa and in South America. That, depending on your perspective, could say they're setting up for military opportunities or they're setting up for
Yeah.
economic opportunities, or both. Or both.
Absolutely. Here's another way to look at it. If China was really so worried about the oil out of Iran, they could have defended. They could have sent Chinese
Mhm.
military. They knew this was coming. They saw what was happening. They could
Mhm.
have dropped fighter jets right into Iran a week ago, the way that Russia did in Syria.
Yeah,
They did not do any. I didn't see anything like that. They didn't come to
That's
their aid.
interesting.
fair
Let
Uh,
point.
me I
we're talking
wanna
about,
also bring up
Russia, Syria, Venezuela, 3 proxies. I mean, I'm sorry, Iran, Syria, Venezuela, 3 Russian and kind of Chinese proxies are all without much opposition, that's changed in the last year.
Yeah.
I wanna put up something that you put up on, X, Kevin, and it was just really talking about the Pentagon here, and that when you and I talked last time, Senator Tester wasn't able to join us, but we talked about kind of that whole weird shift at the Pentagon where all of a sudden legacy media was given the boot and they were asked to sign that agreement that they would only publish things that were authorized by the Secretary of Defense or the Pentagon. So you put this up. Walk us through this. During day one of the war on Iran at the Pentagon, no Secretary of Defense, no Joint Chiefs Chairman, Joint Staff Director fired 2 days ago, and no journalists banned. Tell us, explain that a little bit more to us.
Well, so we were surprised when they launched the strikes, and Trump made a statement from Mar-a-Lago, and then we turned out that also, yeah, Hegseth and Kane are both down there where they were on day one. They were running this operation from the golf course. It's just dumbfounding to me. It's kind of for lots of reasons. I mean, even just for the I don't know, the gentlemanly tradition of it, that the SecDef is in the building, is at the Pentagon. The chairman is there because that's where everybody is. All the Joint Chiefs are there. All of the service secretaries are there. The Joint Staff Director, the ops room, there it's all there. You could do something from a little room. That's not the same thing. Why would you not want to be at the Pentagon where everyone's going in and out of your office doing this in real time? In addition, the briefing room, I mean, it's American tradition when strikes like this happen, we go live to the briefing room. And if you're in political comms, you want this, right? Usually you want the president to make the big sweeping statement, and then you want to immediately shift attention to the military leaders to kind of depoliticize the event and let them talk about the operations and answer any questions and show how smart they are, show how good they are. And they can say it's this many planes and it's this and this is what we're going to do and this is our statement. I mean, like just like Rumsfeld would do or Cheney would do or any of the Bob Gates and Austin and yeah, everybody would do and they would do it with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs at the side. So they're in lockstep, the administration and the military commands. They bring out the CENTCOM director or the CENTCOM, the AFCENT guy, the Air Force CENTCOM director, or chief. You want all of those people briefing and showing, the unified front and the knowledge of what's going on for all the reasons that you could think. And you do that in a full briefing room with qualified veteran, smart Pentagon reporters who've covered these issues and who live and breathe in that building for years. None of that is happening. We're watching remember like the CNN war? This is like a Twitter war or the Truth Social war. We're getting drips of statements. We're getting bombastic kind of stuff. We get like one interview with one official here, an interview there, Sunday talk shows. This is not the normal way. And there's a reason for that. I think fully. I think, Hegseth doesn't he doesn't want to face the press. He hates the press anyway. He's why he kicks them out. I don't think he's bad at it. I think he's good at parrying with reporters, but I question his inherent knowledge of the region. I think he could get put. I think it'd be pretty easy for reporters to put him in a corner just because of his
Mhm.
experience in government. That's not even a knock on him personally. It's just you're not from this world. You're not Bob Gates who's lived this his whole career. You're not a four-star general who put on a suit. So I think it would be easy to get him in a corner and be harmful. So I see why you don't want to put him out to the podium. Don't even have a podium. So yeah, it's tough.
But Kane is not in that boat. He came from the private sector too, which is but Kane is
Less so. Yeah.
yeah, Kane is less so. But
Less
but
so,
you're
but
right.
he was wasn't he? He was a SOCOM 3-star. He wasn't. I mean,
That's
he's got a career. He could speak absolutely competently to everything, but he's
yeah,
not a political leader. So
that's right.
and we know this. We know as reporters when you're in that room that the general's not going to answer the question about politics. Don't even waste your breath. I know how to craft my question in a way that he can answer it safely, but you keep the politics on the guy in the suit for a good reason. You put it
Yeah,
to him. Why did you not plan it like this? Why did you blah blah blah? You go to the general because they didn't do that. How has that changed your approach? What is it? What are the pros and cons? And he'll go wherever he wants to go with this answer.
but
But
none of
yeah,
that has happened. But none of
none of
that
it's happening.
is interesting.
The American people have no idea what their military leaders think right now. They have very little idea. They have
Yeah,
only the little bit that those leaders want you to know.
that's interesting. What's that
Even the
do
White
for
House isn't having briefings. They're not putting out Caroline Levitt they're not.
Right,
There's
yeah,
nothing.
right.
They're not putting out anybody.
you're right. You're right.
It's really it's amazing.
Just an 8-minute video from the president.
Right.
Okay, 2 more questions for you, Kevin, then we'll let go. But I'll just combine them here. What else are your Iranian friends saying as far as what they think happens next? And then if you are back in at the Pentagon, like, what are your big questions right now that you do not see being answered?
Good questions. Well, like I said earlier, my Iranian friends have always said, the problem with the opposition is, I mean, the good and the bad of it is that it's a free flowing opposition. It's not organized. There's no single leader of it. I mean, I was at a dinner at a policy conference a few years ago, so after dinner, that was all Iranians. It was, to talk about the Iran question, and, that 10 people around a table just completely devolved into a shouting match between, different points of view about you guys are too lenient and you're too,
Mhm.
strict and you're not doing, and they were fighting with each other because the emotions are so, so high for so long. And what I'm seeing from my friends that they're posting too is kinda like you said at the beginning, everything can be true. It's great. Finally, he's gone. The Ayatollah's gone. Um, Doing it this way is gonna cause a whole lot more problems that maybe could have been avoided, and also now what? And it's not that easy. It's not like they drop the bomb and you can't just go, "Great, that's it. Let's walk into, the palace and take over." Um, there are I don't I'm not an Iran expert enough to know about the de-Baathification version of this that you worry about, right? That
Mm.
was the big problem of Iraq was when you wiped out the entire government, you created a completely unemployed class of leaders who were very
Right.
quick angry at you for doing that. They don't have we don't know what those plans are, so that's the hard part. Um if I was a Pentagon reporter, I'd wanna know a whole lot more of the operational details, first of all. I'd wanna know, I mean, I'd wanna hear that first. I'd wanna see them stand at the map and say, "These are the planes, these are the bombs that dropped, this is what the targets that were hit and why." We haven't really got that kind of a briefing yet, like, this I've seen, like, a map where there's 9 different cities. What's in those
Mhm.
cities? Are you targeting air defenses? How do you hit them all? Do you plan is it gonna take more? Are you purposefully dripping this out for a reason, right? I want about the protections at the bases. How could a drone get to the base at Bahrain and hit that looked like a radar balloon covering a radar or something like that? Like, how could that happen? What went wrong? We know we have automatic systems to knock down a drone coming out of base. That's kind of pretty basic force protection. What went wrong there? Every one of these little detail moments matter. I'd wanna know about the agreement beforehand. Why did the Israelis get to strike and not the Americans? You know, why talk about the Europeans. The Brits are not involved. Our allies are sitting this out. That's not good. That's not what we want ideally. um what kind of force protection is there for fight? There's all kinds of questions. I can see the whole press conference in my head.
Yeah.
The Sergeant Stripes reporters will be asking, or Jeff Shogel at Task and Purpose will be asking, are there going to be combat badges, and combat pay for everybody that's involved in this now? Like, what about, did you budget for that? Are we going to need an emergency a budget resolution to pay for all this?
Right.
There's 100 questions to ask.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't be a shock that our allies, the European or NATO allies aren't in on it. I mean, he spent the last year trying to distance them and,
Yeah.
quite frankly, what he's done with tariffs and Greenland and everything else is just,
Put him in a horrible position with these weird statements of we support America always, but we want the de-escalation immediately. Some are more supportive than others.
Yeah.
The nuclear program, I'd wanna know. Give us the brief. We still don't have a briefing of, you said you obliterated it, but then people have said other things. Did you or did you not? And also, did you hit more nuclear strikes? What did you hit? What's the battle report? What's the after action report?
And
We
there,
Right.
oh,
from your knowledge, that kind of a briefing has not happened and isn't scheduled to happen either?
No, I do see Pentagon reporters putting out, a lot of news items with, senior defense officials listed. So, and I'm not in that circle anymore. So I assume there are phone calls. I don't know if it's group phone calls that are organized. I don't know if it's individual. But in a normal time, like we said, we'd be having daily press conferences during an active campaign like this on camera, and you'd be having multiple off camera, on record gaggles in the building, in the press secretary's office, in the OSDPA public affairs office with people there. You'd be having even off record conversation. Often, even the sec defs and op directors or the joint staff director will walk into the bullpen where the press desks are and off the record, be like, "Hey guys, I see what you're reporting. Ask me what you want to know." No, just kind of as a way to say, you don't have to go that. Don't. That's a red herring. That's a don't chase that rabbit. Like we're trying to tell you what we can. Meet us in the briefing room. There's responsible reporting about what can be said. That's keeps troops safe. But informs the public that this is it's more than an art. It's a very serious responsibility in journalism,
Mhm.
and
Well,
it just made so much harder for great
yeah.
Pentagon reporters doing it from outside the building.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I would say is this: we're talking about treasure, we're talking about lives. People ought to know what's going on. This is their taxpayer dollars. This is their children that are being put in harm's way. So
We have a
I think
question in the chat. We know that Iran doesn't have intercontinental ballistic missiles, but Wendy's wondering if their allies do that could hit the US.
Iran's allies, I mean, Russia does. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, China does. They
yeah,
have for a long time, and North Korea's, we assume, is closer, or maybe. Um, yeah, but the Iran missile threat, the concern was more the short term threat was missiles that could reach Europe, continental Europe.
right. Right.
More than the United States. Yeah, I
yeah,
was
I
talking
do
with Tony about Golden Dome the other day, and I said, "Man, I remember East Coast missile defense. That was a thing." And the justification for building it was that one day, within 10 or 15 years, and I'm pretty sure it's been 10 years now since that happened, Iran would have the capability to hit targets on the East Coast, and we don't have any missile defense on the East
right,
Coast.
right.
Now, missile technology is so different. We're less worried about an ICBM going into space and back than we are about nuclear-tipped cruise missiles that can come off of, right offshore. Something much closer, much faster, much low flying. It's like we need completely different kind of missile defense for that.
And this is something that the president put out this morning after Iran stated they're going to hit very hard today, harder than they've ever hit before. And he put in all caps, they better not do that. However, because if they do, we will hit them with a force that has never been seen before. And then his standard office memo line of thank you for your attention to this matter. What do you two make of that? What do you think he means by that?
I wonder if Churchill would have used all caps, you know, on the
what would
beaches,
what
on
would
the
Churchill's Twitter account look like?
you know, um, I mean, I would believe him. If the Iran keeps fighting back, they're gonna send more in. The question is to hit what? What targets? And,
Right.
I think this shows too that, Iran is not Venezuela. Iran's not Afghanistan. They have significant military capabilities, and one night of bombing isn't gonna take them all out. There's a lot there, and even if the United States thinks they know where it all was, where all the missiles were, there's more to come. So, I think, General Allen used to say, you extend the target list, when they all comply. You just keep finding other things to hit, and that becomes more specifically leaders and command posts and buildings, and it's not just military, and it just gets messier. It gets worse, right? I mean, this is where politics gets dangerous whether it was McCain saying "bomb, bomb, bomb," or Cruz saying "carpet bomb" in Syria. Like, that's the difference between politicians talking about these military force and the way that military leaders talk about it. I mean, I just got reminded of a quick story. I covered Chuck Hagel when he was SecDef. And Chuck Hagel famously was an infantryman who became defense secretary and still has shrapnel from Vietnam in him. And at the time of his hearing, he kind of had his confirmation hearing with John McCain about the use of force and escalating in the Middle East. And we asked him, we've talked about this publicly on one of our trips abroad off the record. We said, "What's the difference between you two? You're both, famous Vietnam veterans with such different views of the use of force." And he said simply, he goes, "I was on the ground, and I was a grunt on the infantryman on the ground, and he was in the air, and he would drop bombs, and I saw the impact of." And that really governed their thinking in a very different way. And I'm reminded of it a lot whenever I see politicians make bombastic statements about, like, "We're just gonna bomb more of you." And, you know, I did want to bring up one thing you mentioned with children being killed, and that story. Don't forget, this administration removed the protections and the people that work on civilian casualties in the military. They as a force of policy, there was always been a side from the right that thought there was an over dependence on protection of civilian casualties, for air campaigns, especially and drone campaigns, and that the White House, especially the Obama White House, was they were too involved, right? They micromanaged. That was the word we heard all the time. They micromanaged the air campaigns because, and they just weren't realistic about war and that this is what happens. And the Pentagon has completely removed that they as a policy. And now we're seeing for the first use of force with that very quickly an errant, something happened. I don't know this. I don't know why or how that happened, but just connecting those two moments, like there
No,
are
I
the
think
school gets hit.
thank you.
By the way, this administration last year, made it a point to say we're not going to waste our time trying to avoid every single civilian casualty. We're going to use any force we can anytime we want.
Which is just
Yeah.
when you think about it, like, we hear words casualty or civilian casualty or numbers, and, I mean, this is something that's bothered me forever since I've been in news where we hear these numbers and we kinda just glaze over and, it's just a headline, and if that was your kid, that was your family, these are human beings, and it just by the sheer luck of being born where they were born, these are human beings. Those kids were just born in Iran,
Yeah, it's every
and it's
conflict.
not a
At the same
monolith.
time,
Yeah.
look what's been happening in Gaza for the last couple of years now, and Americans are already, I would argue, immune to it, and never really came as a whole, never really showed the outrage for the civilian death there because it wasn't out of America's hand directly. It may have been,
Mhm.
indirectly through mission, but, um, one, strike and Trump doing it, and it becomes like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we did it." But America's, got blood on its hands in every conflict, and American weapons are used, and boy, there's a whole lot of children who were killed in that conflict. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Certainly was. Yeah, certainly was.
Kevin,
Can we
before we let you go oh, God, go ahead, sorry.
no, Brad, you've got one. I wanna talk about something he's doing for fun. Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. Well, let's do that.
Mm.
Let's do that. Yeah, you pivot here, and then you and I will close this out when he leaves.
Okay. So, what are you doing for fun? What are you doing for, well, maybe not just fun, but to kinda connect people up?
Yeah, my new occupation for that I've started for myself is, I did live events a lot on my career on the beat as well. We put on big summits in the defense world, and then I was the head of the live events in the newsroom at Politico. And what I wanna do is start to bring those serious topical conversations that we have often in Washington and overlap them with bigger global stage moments, including global sports. And that's because I think there's quite a lot of overlap between defense and technology and elite sports like Formula One behind me, and things like aerodynamic engineering, and of course AI and data, and supply chains and manufacturing, and materials. Human performance is a big overlap between sports and military concerns. With health gadgets, food and nutrition. There's so many different areas. And at Politico, I remember saying we do so many AI breakfasts, AI lunches. You have speakers, and you fill the room, and you have conversations in Washington. But there we still Washington doesn't need convincing on AI. They're trying to fight over the rules and who gets the contracts and who's in charge of it. But outside the country, people still think the robots are going to kill us all, and we need a lot more educating to be done. And I also think there's a little bit of what's good for the goose is good for the gander here. That I don't care if the AI company is a little more Trump aligned or left aligned or either aligned. All I care about is that our AI and our capabilities are better than our adversaries. We're together, still ahead of China and Russia, Iran, or wherever else it might be. Maybe less Iran now, but in that way. And promoting these things are good. They're good. They inhe I think they're inherently good in lots of ways. They promote these international, moments of cooperation. They're global partners, with shared values, and it's a lot more fun to go to Formula One races than to rent hotel to Washington.
What would these look like, Kevin? Are these gonna be interviews with folks, on and
Yeah,
post
panel discussions. So, what I would do, and if, folks don't know, and how, Washington works, in conversations. The private salon dinner is a staple in Washington, and it's not a smoky backroom, deal of sneaky deals being made. It's people, stakeholders in the community educating themselves. Usually, there's a law that's coming up, there's a regulation that needs to be passed, and it may be cancer medicine providers, and it's the health department with the cancer companies, with the members of everybody who's in charge of that world. I mean, there's a view that thinks like, oh, this is this is the secret cabal. No, these are the leaders of this industry trying to figure out the future. And so you have private moments like those, and then you have public ones that are maybe it's a stage conversation in a panel for a room full of invited guests or public guests, and it's a videoed moment. We do this all the time in newsrooms, or maybe it's something even bigger, fan experiences. ESPN Game Day is like hours long of information, sponsors. So when we go to like race weekends and Olympics, just like anything else, these are industry moments, not just for the sport, but for all the sponsors. And in
Mhm.
something like Formula One, Google, AI, Anthropic, all these companies that were talking the cloud story in the last week, they're all sponsors in Formula One. They and lots of other, in the Olympics, in the NFL, in the NBA. These are America's leading technological companies and capabilities for some of the biggest, industries in the world with audiences of billions. So yeah, that's the idea is to like, this is what I do. My superpower is I'm good at being on your side of the camera and asking questions and entertaining the audience and getting to the crux of matters where they matter. So yeah,
That's good. That's good. Well, good luck with that. Good
thank
luck.
you.
Yeah, go check out Kevin's
Well,
work and also just follow along. I'm sorry we are part of the problem in pigeonholing you in this, military analyst today, but,
No, I'm keeping
thanks.
my foot is still firmly and always will be in this world. Like I said, I'm trying to bring the military capability and the national security mission and sense of purpose to marry it to where I think I'm not where it already exists. Maybe without realizing it in these other
Mhm.
supporting areas where these companies are already doing the same thing. These leaders are working in both buckets. Let's just be more deliberate about using these global stages as moments to pitch and to think about our geostrategic, capabilities and competitiveness and partnerships.
Well, I'm not a
Alright.
Formula One driver, but if you ever need a farmer, sign me up. All right.
Love farmers, food sustainability, food security, absolutely. This is important stuff.
Amen, brother.
Renewable energy, climate, it's all connected.
It all connect up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Kevin. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Alright, Senator, any final thoughts here?
Well, I think it's interesting because he is right. Every other conflict we've been, there's been press conferences, hell, every hour, it seems like, talking about what's going on, why they're doing what they're doing, what the targets they're hitting, why they're hitting those targets. And he's right. And there's been really nothing. I mean, I saw Cotton and Lindsay on TV this morning, with some other folks.
Senators Tom Cotton and Senator Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, that's
I'll
right.
just
That's right. That's right. So Cotton and Senator Graham on TV this morning, along with with some other folks. Senator Kelly was on, and Ro Khanna was on, and folks like that. But the bottom line is there hasn't been anything out of the administration by the head of the Joint Chiefs or the Secretary of Defense talking about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and taking questions from the press. Hard questions, admittedly, but questions that are important. Like I said, these are people's taxpayer dollars and lives put on the line, along with this country's reputation. I think that it's important that people know how their dollars are being spent. That aside, I would just say this: the only thing I really disagreed with him on was I think China is much more active. I think
Mm.
they want to be the leader militarily in this world. All you have to do is take a look at the amount of ships, planes, submarines, satellites that they're putting out. It is massive, and the agreements that they're getting, particularly on the west coast of Africa and in South America. I think all that I just have a lot of heartburn over, quite frankly. And I'm going to tell you, they may lay out on Iran, uh, but I am going to be surprised. I will be. I think this has the potential to being a drawn out um, war because I don't know that there was a lot of planning put into it. And I hope I'm wrong on all that. I hope that this goes swimmingly. I think that Iran has been a bad actor for, like I say, 47 years. And to put those folks to bed is not a bad idea at all. In fact, it goes for our national security. But I'm really concerned about the planning that goes into this could draw us into another one. And we have not had a good record on conflicts in the Middle East and having them end up in a way that has really matched the values of democracy and freedom and privacy and democracies that we all hope for.
And what kind of extremist groups are born and rise out of
Yeah.
doing something like this, out
Right.
of one of these conflicts and forced regime change? And,
Yep.
you know, I remember in the early 2000s and seeing those first images, um, striking Iraq, and there were so many people cheering it on, and then look what happened after that. And
Yep.
it's so
It
it's
is.
so hard to know what's ahead right now,
Yep.
because we've seen it, and hindsight's 2020, but it's so hard to know what's ahead, and people are concerned. And I think it's really important to remember in this moment, like, I am not an international security expert. I do not know everything there is to know about these things. But I do know that this is a country of 92 million people, and it's not a monolith, and there are varying degrees. Like Kevin was saying, his friends get into shouting matches over this because it's heated and emotional and passionate, and this is their country. And just like in our country, I just think as we analyze this and read about the news going forward, we remember, put it in the lens of it being America. You have all kinds of degrees of belief systems here in this country, and so do they. And yes, they should have liberation, but does that have to look like what we want it to look like? I mean, I don't know. I just worry about what comes next.
I will tell you that, and hopefully she doesn't mind me throwing it up. But all the reporters I worked with, and I didn't work with Margaret Brennan a lot, but I worked with her a little bit. She cut her teeth in the Middle East. It would be really interesting to see how she sees all of this from her point of view, not as CBS's point of view, but from her point of view, because I think it would be very, very instructive, because she has cut her teeth on all the conflicts, on all the stuff that's gone on over there before she got to be the head of I think Face the Nation, or the show that
Yep, that's
she
right.
is doing. But look, it's an interesting time, and you're absolutely right. Early on, and look, I feel it myself. I mean, I'm happy that the Ayatollah is gone, and I'm happy that we're doing some of this stuff. But the potential for this to be drawn out uh, and not solving the problem that we set out to do, I think is pretty high. And so we'll see what happens. And part of it has to do with I'm not completely sold on, not even partially sold on our defense secretary, and I'm not uh, uh, thinking that there's a lot of thought that goes into him when you're talking about war plans. That's all. And the fact that they aren't allowing the press in to talk about this uh, kind of confirms that, quite frankly. So that's good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
good.
Um, okay, and I do have to just mention, I can't believe you're not gonna give me shit for this.
What, being in
Where I am.
wearing a Disneyland shirt? I won't say a word about it. Not that you're in not that you're in Orange County and going to the happiest place on earth. That's okay. All right, don't feel
You
guilty.
know, I
No,
do feel guilty. So I flew down here, and I have my son with me, and Disney's our thing. We love to go to Disney, and it feels so weird to be Ellie Leonard's on. Yes, again, Ellie. Yes, again. Yes, again. I'm at Disneyland. Um, it feels so. It does. It just. All throughout the day yesterday. I mean, this is my happy place. This is where I come to dissociate, and it's just so hard to know what you know people in Iran are dealing with right now, and we're at Disneyland, and it just as you go about your day, think about that a little bit.
you got to compartmentalize, Maritza. You got to compartmentalize.
I know.
What you do
I'm
is
usually pretty good at dissociating, but, I gotta show you though what else happened yesterday at Disneyland because, I planned this out kinda last minute. We hopped down for the weekend, we have some friends down here, and, yesterday was MAGA day at Disneyland. There was a MAGA takeover at Disneyland, so, usually it's easy to dissociate a little bit, but, because you see Disney, you see Mickey ears, and yesterday I saw red hats and a lot of that.
Glad I had some hats. In fact, I'm gonna give you a hat that you can wear next time you're at Disneyland on Mega Day. Yeah.
What?
Show
What does it look like?
it to you? You want me to show it to you? I'll show it to you. Here.
You have it handy? Oh my gosh.
I do.
Oh boy. He's getting up, folks. There were some other people wearing hats, like, I saw one green hat that said, "Immigrants make America great," and then there were protesters out front,
So
with
look
signs.
at it. Even still in the plastic bag. It's still in the plastic
Oh
bag.
my gosh.
Are you looking at this? And I've got several of these. I'm gonna give this one to you. I'm taking it out of the plastic bag. See, there's a plastic
What
bag.
is this? What is this?
This
I
is what that says.
Make the presidency great again, MPGA. Where'd you get that?
I don't know if somebody gave it to me. I think it might have been a former staff member, and I'm not gonna throw her under the bus, but I'm pretty sure she did.
Well, they were so they had mega shirts too, and they used it said MDGA, and it was Make Disney Great Again, and the D, they used the Disney D, and my friends and I were wondering if, like, they were gonna be kicked out because you're not supposed I'll go on my Disney rant, you're not supposed to wear political messaging in the park.
And
So
it's
I don't know how they got past
that
that.
that D is copyrighted, so
And the D is copyrighted, yeah, so I don't know, but, it is strange to be here and having fun and going on roller coasters, when, this is happening across the world, and, again, like, we just wanna, like, everyone involved in this, whether it's our American troops, 3 of which we lost already, families with kids and relatives overseas right now. It's a scary time. If you um, have family or friends in Iran, if there's a lot of tension right now, and there's a lot of fear, and so we'll be thinking of them.
yes, yes, yes. All right.
All right. Do you want to tell me about your hat really quick? What is your hat? Someone wants to know where your
This is
frog
an
hat is.
energy hat. Own Energy. Now, I gotta
Oh,
say, I got this so many years ago, I don't even know if these guys are still in business, but you know, what can I say? It's good.
all right. Owen Energy. Do you still have your frog hat? Where is that?
You know what? I gave it to my son. He's probably wearing the hell out of it, you know? I set it on top of the banister and he took it, and he's
He
got it.
took it.
All after wrestling. Right?
George thinks we need grounded merch. Do you think we should
Grounded
ground
merch.
some merch?
Yeah, we could get some grounded hats, you know? I have a guy farming in the field with it grounded above it. I like that. I like that. We should get some merch.
Yeah, I mean, I
Give it
don't
a
know. I
well,
don't
if I've
know
got
if
merch,
people want.
if I had merch, I could give it away to the the class that I'm teaching at Georgetown, you know, the,
I can't even get you to give our card away with our QR code to watch our show. So,
the kids don't want the card, but they'd take a pen or a hat, you know, or sunglasses, you know.
all right, we'll look into some merch if people actually want it. I've never, I've only heard a handful of people clamoring for grounded merch, but we'll
That is
take a look.
true. That's true. A
All
handful.
right.
2.
Yeah, a senator tester left handful, which is just 2.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much to our guest, Kevin Farron, for joining us. We wanna thank, all of you who hopped on here with us. We wanna thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music, and to all of you, just continue to support us and be with us here throughout this journey. Thank you.
Go Mickey. Tally ho.